38, part 2 of Kenya's premier sports video podcast, the Three Quarters Podcast. Jump onto the hashtag Road to Japan to support the Kenya Simbas as they are still looking to qualify for the Rugby World Cup in 2019. I'm Demi Mutafield.
This is Nashi Official Noisemaker,
Jeringus Kenyana.
Alright, so we start off with Bad Man of the Week, which comes from the Driftwood's Sevens tournament. So we'll start off with your Bad Man.
My bad man, there are a couple of guys, of course, to note. I think Injury had a decent outing. I think, a couple of guys. I also felt to some extent, especially on Saturday, Charles Kanyi, popularly known as Akaranga.
Yes.
I felt like he also had a good outing. But my bad man of the week for the Driftwood Sevens is Leonard Ngaisi. I feel like he's always been a very fleet-foot player. And evident by his role in Nakuru. They're winning Nakuru 10s, the latter stages of the Kenya Cup season, and you could see it in 7, especially when he has a bit of space. Mugaisi's fleet foot always comes out. I think the thing that stood out for me was his try in the final. From deep in their 22, he was able to spot space, kick it into the space, run, play some football, and then ground. And then his awareness to know where the try line was, get the ball and ground it. So my bad man of the week this weekend was Leonard Mugaisi.
I think I definitely agree with you in the sense that the Mugaisi we saw first coming into maybe the Kenya 7th setup and the Mugaisi we're seeing today are like two different people.
Yes.
He has grown in leaps and bounds.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I think I will agree with Nash. My bad man is Leonard Mugaisi as well. But I give a shout to the Menengai Oilers once again. These guys were really impressive. They were my team of the tournament. So we had some powerful runs and some nice gameplay that got them to the semis. And they are a young team. The setup of the team and how it's run, I'd really like to know, considering how they've been at it, especially the last season, going unbeaten and getting promoted to the championship. That's a team to watch out for. But I'll agree with you, Leonard Mugaisi.
Beating Queens at Nakuru 10s,
Yes.
Oilers.
Yep.
I think they're under the stewardship of former Kenya Sevens vice captain and Gibson.
Mangibu.
Yeah.
All right, so well done to all those players. Now we move on to Rugby 101, where we teach you, rules, be it lingo, all about rugby. So Nash, take it away.
So we're still on, of course, the new rules that were implemented by the World Rugby Executive Committee. The rules have already been put in play at the Women's Rugby World Cup, that was in Ireland earlier on this year, as well as we're starting to see it being implemented small time. I had a chat with actually the refs, some of the refs when we were down in Mombasa, and a couple of them have told me that this is what they're being taught and that's what they're trying to get. So today we're going with striking the ball after a throw-in during the scrum. The rules have been changed. Previously, it used to be only the hooker who was allowed to hook the ball, for lack of a better word. Now, all the front row players are allowed to attempt to hook the ball after it's thrown in. The reasoning for this by World Rugby, which seems to be their reasoning for everything, is to promote fair contest and chance for possession for the team that's feeding in. So that's our Rugby 101 class for today, which is basically striking the ball after throwing during the scrum.
Okay. So now we move on to Simba Focus. This will be the last Simba Focus segment this year. So we're going to basically have an overview of the whole international rugby season and how we found it. So what would you say? How did you find it basically?
It has been an on and off season for Kenya, I believe. We started off shaky a bit with Uganda away from the World Cup, but then a few substitutions that happened changed the game to our favor. You were on against Zimbabwe, off again against Namibia, on Tunisia, off Senegal. So it has been a kind of a seesaw a little bit, and I think it boils down to it was a mental struggle for the boys. I think we lacked the mental strength to maintain high-level performances throughout the season, and it resulted to us always taking too long to settle into the game. Our gameplay tends to get eventually our gameplay gets messed up, and we are just all over the place. And then looking forward, when we have the Cup of Nations coming up in November, I believe, as we always say, that we cannot lose all aspects of the game. Our forwards especially. Scrums, breakdowns and the lineouts. At least let's win 2 if we can't win all 3. And then I think, and also our backline's defense. Our defense needs to be really sharpened, especially in between the centers, 12, 13. We've been having a small problem there a little bit. So let's see how these boys will work on that, and then we'll be good.
Well, as Ngusa said, one of the things he feels we need to work on is, basically having a seesaw sort of performance. We're on, we're off, we're on, we're off, and we don't know what's quite going on. I think on my part, what I'd say is one thing that we needed to work on is when you find that the other team has read what you're doing, like they know your style of play, just changing it up. Like it's like we have sort of, we've trained for this particular, play, and then we don't have a backup. But what would you say?
Just first to start with your point, every team has that type of play that is synonymous to them, and I think the teams that do it best are the teams that make it a habit to execute whatever they're doing. That comes with one of the points I'm going to mention, because mine is from a two-way aspect, from management and from the players themselves. I think about number one, and I keep on saying our problems this season started with what we talked about in episode 15, interference selection of the squad. That needs to stop. Going into the Cup of Nations and of course the World Cup qualifiers next year, we need to come up, whatever the technical team is going to come, the squad that they're going to come up with needs to be the squad that's going to stick. We need union officials not interfering with the squad selection, number one. Number two, I think we need a bit more focus on 15s rugby from the union again. Reason I say this is because next year we have the Sevens World Cup and we have the Commonwealth Games. My suspicion is that the union is going to put more focus on those two, Commonwealth and Sevens World Cup, and forget about the World Cup qualifiers, the 15s World Cup qualifiers. Again, boils down to what we keep on saying. If you do not build a 15s team, there's nothing you're doing here. Just stop it altogether. I think more training sessions for our boys. At club level, you train 3 times a week. That cannot be the same. That cannot be the same number of times you train on national level. So these guys, I think, need to go into some sort of camp, whether it's going to be here, whether it's going to be wherever it's going to be. They need to get into some sort of camp just to build that camaraderie and that mental psyche for game day. And I think also on the players end, I would like to see a bit more discipline from the players, and to realize the importance of some of these games. Because as somebody, in social media, I saw one person say that if you do not focus, if the players do not focus, then you start losing the fans in the stadium. Therefore, I think we need a bit more discipline from the players come the World Cup qualifiers, and then we should be good. Just to add on to your point, what you said, that's going to be fixed by more training. More training sessions.
More training sessions.
But we can only, as we always say, we are just a voice. We only hope that the people who are in charge implement what we talk about.
As you said, when she said about switching it up, the moment you make it basic, make it training, make it a habit, and it becomes your basic rugby. You can no longer have these small mistakes. Like knockouts, how?
Yeah.
And it's not even raining.
Unless you're Cabras.
And they've adapted.
Yeah.
All right. So we move onto international rugby, and we'll look at the Rugby Championship, which has been going on 2 weeks of games, and then we had a break. Now, what do you think in terms of what we saw from the first 2 weeks?
Over the last 2 weeks, what we've seen, nothing has shocked me, if I may say so. The New Zealand team and the South African team going unbeaten. So not too much of a shocker. Maybe the New Zealand-Australian game was a bit a close call for New Zealand, but no shocker for me.
Okay, what about you?
Mine is from a holistic perspective. Australia, they're on the way up after losing heavily to New Zealand in the first game in Melbourne, I think, or Sydney. In Sydney. Yeah, they had a very good game in Dunedin. I think they're on the ascendancy and they're going to capitalize on that going into South Africa. South Africa have looked very sharp from last year, and it seems like they're getting back into it. However, the test for them is going to be when they play Australia and New Zealand. So we can only wait and see how that goes. Argentina seem to have declined or dropped from last season. They don't look to be getting the phases going or executing the ball real good. So I think they're going to be having a big problem out against New Zealand first and Australia later on. So that's my take about the 4 teams.
Okay, so going into the next round, we have SA versus Australia, and then we have Argentina versus New Zealand. What are your predictions for those games?
Well, I think it will be a walkover for the All Blacks against the Pumas, but not a tough match for South Africa against Australia. But South Africa will come out on top.
Okay, what about you?
I'll actually go the extra step and call the 2 games now, but I can change next week. I feel South Africa will beat Australia at home and lose to Australia away. I think New Zealand are going to do the double of Argentina.
Yeah, as expected.
You want to put money on it?
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah, but I can change next week.
Come on.
South
Back your
Africa will not
answer
lose
up.
that
Yeah. But anyway, that's my take. Yeah.
Okay, so we'd like to know your predictions too. Remember, you can find us on social media. That is by following us on Instagram, liking our page on Facebook, and also subscribing to our YouTube channel. I'm Denise Duffield.
This is Nashi Official Noisemaker.
Jerry Goose Kenyana.
Stay tuned for part 2.